Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation G VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be featuring a really fun team featuring Choice Band Rayquaza as well as Assault Vest Okidogi and Galar Weexzing. Rayquaza is not a very common restricted Pokemon in this format, and for good reason. It's outsped by a lot of common Pokemon. It does not have a really powerful spread move like a lot of common restricted Pokemon, and does have some fairly common weaknesses as well. However, Choice Band Rayquaza, when paired with Chien-Pao and Sword of Rune, can deal massive amounts of damage, especially with moves like Normal Tera Extreme Speed, as well as Dragon Ascent. And so I think if you are looking to use Rayquaza in this format, this is definitely one way to make it work. The general idea behind this is with Normal Tera Extreme Speed, you can often just knock your opponent's Pokemon out before they even get the chance to move, and Choice Band Dragon Ascent is really, really powerful as well. So this is a team that I think definitely enables Rayquaza. At the end of the day, I think Rayquaza fundamentally is still just like not the most powerful in this format, so we'll see what we can do in order to make it work in this video. But as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team. If you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. If you're interested in trying out the team, the rental code is on the screen, and there's also an accompanying PokePaste down in the description below. This team utilizes Choice Band Rayquaza to deal massive amounts of damage. You've got Chien-Pao with Sword of Rune to drop your opponent's defense, so it kind of operates somewhat similarly to Dragonite plus Chien-Pao from previous regulations. Rayquaza is a little bit stronger, and of course also gets access to a really powerful Dragon Ascent. Flying type in particular is really valuable offensively in this format, and Choice Band Dragon Ascent in Sword of Rune can pick up so many one-hit knockouts. You also have Icy Wind Flutter Mane with the speed, Photosynthesis, Booster Energy in order to drop your opponent's speed, giving you some speed control and allowing Rayquaza to potentially outspeed after an Icy Wind. And then you also have Neutralizing Gas Weexzing. Weexzing is nice because Rayquaza doesn't really depend on its ability very much. Airlock is not super relevant in this format. Helps out against those Kyogres, Koraidons, and Groudons, but otherwise is not going to be relevant in most other battles and restricted Pokemon. And so Weexzing is nice because it can be really disruptive against common teams. And to round things out, you've got Okidogi, which can be used to stop opposing Fake Out with its upper hand, as well as Choice Scarf Chi-Yu, which is really strong offensively, especially into, for example, Calyrex Shadow Rider and Ice Rider. Breaking down the team, the first Pokemon to highlight here is going to be Rayquaza. Now, before diving into the specifics, I just want to preface that I think Rayquaza is really fun, and this team does a great job of maximizing its value. Unfortunately, I think Rayquaza's ceiling just feels a little bit lower than other restricteds, and it's gated by a couple of things, including relatively mediocre bulk, as well as just not the best speed stat, an ability that's not relevant in like 90% of your games, and the fact like it can only hit one Pokemon at a time. So all of that is to say, if you're looking for a really fun Pokemon to use, a restricted that no one's really using, and a way to maximize it, this team is definitely it. This team also has a lot of other fun things like Weexzing and Okidogi. If you're looking for a team that I think can very consistently win games and climb the ladder with, I'm not sure I would recommend this team, mainly because I think it's just a lot harder to execute. Rayquaza doesn't have something that feels like inherently broken, like an Astro Barrage or like a Kyogre Water Spout, for example, or a Glacial Lance from Ice Rider, and so it's just going to be harder to execute, harder to use, right? And that is exactly why some of the lower tier restricteds are not very common. It's like you can still make them work, but you have to put in a lot more work essentially in order to actually get them to work, right? That being said, I do think like Rayquaza is still powerful enough that it can be brought out into so many matchups in the format. It just means that playing with it isn't necessarily as easy or straightforward as other restricteds. And that lends to my question of the day, which is how would you buff Rayquaza? Two quick suggestions that I had. One, I think Airlock is not a relevant ability in most matchups, unfortunately. Like Weather is it exists obviously in Koraidon and Kyogre, but it's not like most Pokemon here have Weather in the format. So I was like, it would be really cool if Airlock could also get rid of like Tailwind and also get rid of like Terrain. Like I think that would be really fascinating. But I don't know if that would make Rayquaza like maybe too strong, for example. I also think just giving it better natural bulk or giving it more speed would be really nice. Like putting in the base like 120 to 125 speed range would be cool. I feel like Rayquaza has really just gotten like out creeped in terms of stats, in terms of design throughout the years. And so those are some suggestions that I had. But yeah. Anyway, talking about Rayquaza here, the general idea is that you have Normal Tera, Choice Band Extreme Speed, as well as Dragon Ascent. These are both really powerful, and when you have Sword of Rune from Chien-Pao to drop your opponent's defense, it's even more powerful. For example, Normal Tera Extreme Speed into a Urshifu with no bulk, just 4 HP investment when Sword of Rune is active, has nearly like a 70% chance to get a one-hit knockout, which is really nice, right? The other downside is it's like that is high, but it's also still not 100%. So I also wish like Rayquaza was just like a little bit more stronger so that can turn into like an 100% KO, for example. I think one of the hardest things about using Rayquaza is there's been a lot of games where I go for normal Tera choice mini speed with Sword of Rune, and I do like 90 to 95%, but that's not enough. I think it's like the difference between something surviving versus it just barely surviving. It can make a huge impact on the game, and that's also one thing that I've often actually struggled with while using this Pokemon. Chien-Pao, of course, using Sword of Rune here to drop your opponent's defense is really nice. And you'll note Rayquaza also has the Giga Impact and U-Turn. Giga Impact is really nice, but it can miss, and you don't get to move the next turn. So I normally reserve this for end games where Rayquaza is like, okay, I need one way to just like quickly knock something out, and I can afford a turn to charge basically afterwards. If you lead Rayquaza and use Giga Impact, there's a lot of things that can go wrong for you, right? And so you have to be really, really careful about clicking this move, but it just allows you to potentially win games that your opponents might not anticipate. And then U-Turn is good for pivoting here, allowing you to get a significant chip damage off and then save Rayquaza for the end game. I think end game Rayquaza actually often feels stronger once you've chipped away at everything here. You do have a little bit of speed investment here, and the idea is with Flutter Mane, you can Icy Wind, and then Rayquaza can outspeed most things. This allows you to outspeed Modest max speed Miraidon and Adamant max speed Koraidon. You might want to up it to let you outspeed Jolly and Timid. Now, Timid Miraidon max speed isn't that common, but Jolly Koraidon max speed is a thing, right? And so you can potentially invest more speed on this set if you want to potentially edit the set. But yeah. Chien-Pao is going to be one of the main partners for Rayquaza, and this is Stellar rather than Ghost, and you also have Sacred Sword and Ice Spinner rather than things like Icicle Crash and Crunch. This Chien-Pao in general is going to do a little bit less damage because it's Jolly instead of Admin, but the idea is that it provides the support Rayquaza needs in terms of dropping your opponent's defense and also threatening with follow-up damage, right? You can go Extreme Speed, Sucker Punch to KO something that you think might survive Extreme Speed. Sacred Sword really good into things like Zamazenta as well as Terapagos, and Stellar just allows you to potentially burst in terms of damage. Ice Spinner really good into things like Miraidon as well as the NDD, and is a little bit more reliable than Icicle Crash. Flutter Mane is a support set here, mainly designed for Icy Wind to enable the Rayquaza, and Taunt to shut down opposing setups. Moonblast also, of course, just still does consistent damage, but this is not a offensive Flutter Mane, so keep that in mind. You're not going to really get one-hit knockouts with this move. Scarf Chi-Yu here is really valuable into the Calorexes, especially Shadow Rider. Scarf Snarl was no joke in this format, and I think it's really good into Shadow Rider as well as other special attackers like Miraidon, Lunala, which has been really picking up in usage, as well as Terapagos. So this is a move I actually find myself clicking a ton with Chi-Yu. Overheat is also really good here. What you can do is often nuke something with Scarf Overheat, switch Chi-Yu out, and then kind of bring it back in later on for the game. And of course, you've got Heat Wave and Dark Pulse. Goes Tera here just to get around fake outs on turn 1. Keep in mind, this is Modest Chi-Yu, not Timid Chi-Yu, so you can actually get outsped by, for example, max speed Jolly Choice Scarf Urshifu, and that's actually how I lost one game when I was playing with this team, just because I'm so used to using Timid Chi-Yu. But yeah, Modest specifically allows you to obviously deal more damage. Just keep in mind that you will be potentially outsped by those other Choice Scarf Pokemon around this speed tier range, like Urshifu and Landorus, for example. Weezing is a really cool Pokemon because you don't really need your abilities that much with this team. Like I mentioned, Rayquaza's Airlock, not really relevant in 90% of games. It's only really relevant into like the Kyogre teams, the Koraidon and Groudon teams. And those do exist, obviously, but there's so many other restricteds that are also common in this format. This Weezing is really good in shutting down abilities, obviously. It's really good in disrupting like Trick Room teams with Taunt, and you've got Will-O-Wisp here as well to shut down physical attackers like Urshifu as well as Iron Hands. You're very especially defensive. With this EV spread, you actually survive Modest, Miraidon, Electro Drift outside of terrain 100% of the time unless they crit. And the idea is like neutralizing gas here is going to stop the terrain, and so that's actually a very common calc. When you're going up against Miraidon, I think Weezing is actually a really effective lead option, for example. And so yeah, this is very, very specially defensive. You got a little bit of speed here, a little bit of defense as well. And the general idea is that it's just really disruptive by shutting down abilities. Okidogi is the final Pokemon. This is nice as a countermeasure for fake outs. If you think your opponent's going to lead Incineroar, leading this and going for upper hand is really nice. Otherwise, it's just bulky. It can take damage. It can heal back with Drain Punch. Dark Terror knockoff is really powerful, and Gunk Shot is really great as well. One thing about this team is that Rayquaza does not love going up against Ghost-type Pokemon and Steel-type Pokemon, and so you have Chien-Pao, the Chi-Yu, as well as Okidogi to cover for all of those types, essentially. In terms of ways with playing with the team, common leads that I like include Rayquaza, Chien-Pao. This is vulnerable to a good bit, so be careful. If your opponent has Fake Out or Intimidate, I think you want to consider leading Okidogi instead, because Fake Out's going to be really disruptive for Rayquaza, as is Intimidate. But those are just some things to consider. If your opponent doesn't really have that, right, then I think Rayquaza Chimp becomes really, really strong. You can go, for example, Flutter Rayquaza, Icy Wind into Dragon Ascent immediately. That's powerful. Okidogi, I think, can be a really solid lead into those Fake Out users, like I mentioned, and Intimidators. So I think like Okidogi Chiyu, Okidogi Chimp, Okidogi Rayquaza apply a lot of offensive pressure. Weezing is a good lead if you think shutting down your opponent's abilities early are relevant, or if your opponent has a lot of physical Pokemon or Pokemon that might want to set up. Weezing can be led with anything. I think like Weezing, for example, I often find myself leading with Chiyu, because Chiyu allows me to do like tons of burst damage and maybe overheat something, while Weezing can shut down the other Pokemon that I am not KOing essentially. But I think Weezing can be led here. I've even gone Weezing Flutter Me into like really Trick Room heavy teams, because you have like Taunt and Will-O-Wisp here, and so that can be really valuable, right? If your opponent's like leading Fake Out plus Trick Room with double Taunt here, you can like eat up a Fake Out with Weezing and then get Taunt off with Flutter Mane into the Trick Room user, for example. So yeah, those are just a couple of things I wanted to know. In terms of things to watch out for, there are a couple of things that I wanted to know. First of all, I think with Rayquaza in particular, you are really gated by the fact that you only get to target one slot at a time. You don't get a really powerful spread move like Kyogre, like Groudon, like the Calyrex. And so as a result, if you attack into a Protect or into a defensive pivot, that can be really bad, right? For example, if you are up against a Steel Tera to deal with Dragon Ascent or a Ghost Tera to deal with Extreme Speed and Giga Impact, that can be really, really scary. Rayquaza here does have a good amount of HP investment, but it often feels like it still gets two-shot by a lot of really powerful attacks, and so that's something you have to watch out for as well. And Rayquaza is not really the fastest here, so you're going to get outsped by a lot of common Pokemon and restricteds. And so, yeah, like, this is really strong if you're able to just knock your opponent out before they get the chance to move, but if you're attacking into a Protect or a defensive Tera, that can be really bad. Ghost types in particular, like I mentioned, you have to really, really watch out for. Ghost Tera is fairly common because people use it to get around Fake Out, right? Intimidate and ways to drop Rayquaza's attack is also really valuable. And you do have the Okidogi here for Intimidate as well as Weezing to shut it off. But that being said, it's like easier said than done. I definitely have had games where it's like I lead Okidogi, but my opponent doesn't lead Incineroar. Okidogi then basically struggles in the early game, and then Rayquaza can basically be dealt with Intimidate afterwards. At -1, this just feels a lot sadder to use, and so that's something that you'll really want to think about. Also, keep in mind that you don't have a ton of defensive pivoting with this team. It's harder to make switches on average, I think, because you don't have a lot of bulk. You also don't have Protect on Rayquaza, Chiyu, and Okidogi, so that's something that can be a little bit scary as well. With Okidogi, I think it is obviously going to be a little bit bulkier thanks to Assault Vest and your max HP investment, but I found that sometimes my opponents can just like double up into it and really aggressively target it down. And even though it's quite powerful, it's often not getting one-hit knockouts in return. So if Okidogi takes a ton of damage, there's not something like can Drain Punch to heal back a ton, then the next turn it can just get doubled up again, right? I think in general, like Okidogi and Rayquaza can struggle a little bit by being outsped by the opponent, and that's something that can be a little bit scary sometimes as well. Otherwise, some restricteds that I've struggled against. I think Calyrex Ice Rider is really hard for this team, mainly because it obviously is such a good offensive matchup into Rayquaza. Like, fun fact, even if you burn Calyrex Ice Rider with Will-O-Wisp from Weezing, it still can just knock out Rayquaza with Glacial Lance if you have Interrad, which feels pretty bad. And so, like, Calyrex Ice Rider with a good redirection user, which often will be the case, in order to help them set up that Trick Room is really scary. If they have a defensive Tera like Water, which is fairly common as well, Chiyu struggles a lot more against it. And so I think a well-played Ice Rider is really tough. I think like Zacian and Zamazenta are other restricteds that Rayquaza can struggle a little bit against, mainly because like you don't really threaten them a ton with your normal type attacks, right? And Dragon Ascent does like okay damage, but isn't like KOing them. And then you're threatened by them pretty immensely as well. And so those are some restricteds I think to like watch out for in particular. But yeah, I think that Rayquaza is not an easy restricted to use, and as a result, that's why it's not very common in this format. It is awesome when you get to use it properly, but because you have to make the right targeting with it, it can just make playing with this Pokemon a lot more challenging. So I think that's also kind of one of the fun things about trying to use it, but just keep that in mind. Like, this is not a restricted that I would recommend if you're looking to just like win games very cleanly, and you do, I think, have your work cut out for you. But you know, I think this is one of the smartest ways to make it work in this format. Okay, we've got Bramblegast here, as well as Urshifu, Tornadus, Chiyu, Kyogre, Iron Crown. That's really cool. So, items-wise, it would make sense for it to be like Sash Bramblegast, Mystic Water Urshifu, or Scarf, Specs, Mystic Water, Assault Vest, Scarf, all viable items on Kyogre. Crown with booster energy. She used the interesting one here. So into this, I think we can just go with Tornadus plus Chien-Pao. I don't think we really want to bring Fluttermane out into this matchup. Weezing's like okay. Like I don't actually think shutting down abilities is super important here. I think the argument for a Weezing lead would be Weezing Chien-Pao to shut off Prankster and then just like Ice Spin or Tornadus. But I actually don't mind Okidogi and Chi-Yu in the back. Chi-Yu might seem a little bit weird to bring into this matchup because we're up against Kyogre or Urshifu, but like it's still decent, especially into Iron Crown, for example, as well as Brambleghast. But yeah, I think the first question I have here is how offensive is the Tornadus? Do you have a lot of defense investment? Because if not, then we can just pop you with normal Tera, Choice Band, Extreme Speed, if that's led. And it is going to be Crown as well as Tornadus. Okay, I don't mind that. There's the booster energy. Let's see if it's speed or special attack. Special attack, okay. Honestly, I'm even contemplating doubling up onto Crown right now, because I think Crown tearing makes a lot of sense. So I'm thinking of normal Tera, E-Speed into this, and Sucker Punch into it. I'm down. Okay, so we're going to Tera. And if they don't Tera and they just attack and Tailwind, we should get the knockout onto it as well, right? I don't care about Tailwind being set up if I have priority. There's the Tera. Okay, no Tera on their end. But I get the Extreme Speed off here. It does so much damage. Nice, and we get knockout here. Cool. Yeah, I thought there was likely they would go Tailwind, Tera, Crown. Let's see if they Tailwind here. Beautiful. So they don't even really get value out of this first turn of Tailwind, right? I think, like, I basically didn't want a scenario where I ended up attacking aggressively with Chien-Pao, but then, like, split my damage, and then, like, both Pokemon survive. Because we still have Airlock, which is great. I've got Okidogi and Chi-Yu in the back. I mean, I'm really thinking about just doubling into a slot again, like Extreme Speed here and Sucker into Kyogre. Because it's like, what are you going to do? You would protect Kyogre and then maybe Bleak Windstorm with Tornadus, but they don't protect, so Rayquaza gets another Extreme Speed off here. I mean, I think this double up should just KO. Okay, that Kyogre has no bulk on it. Oh my goodness. Chien-Pao goes for Sucker Punch. This is going to do at least 50. Yeah. And they Bleak Wind. It does double connect and get a crit on Rayquaza, but that's fine. And a speed drop, but honestly, it's still okay. Crit, double speed drop, and double connect given that Airlock is up is actually pretty nuts. But it's still fine. And it's going to be Brambleghast as the final Pokemon. Okay. Obviously with Brambleghast, I can't Extreme Speed into you, but I'm happy to just Extreme Speed into Tornadus here, and then Sucker Punch into Brambleghast. I can't believe we just saw Tornadus get a double connect in Airlock into a critical hit into double speed drop. Here's the Tera. I wonder if it's Ghost Tera by any chance on the Tornadus. Nope, it's Brambleghast Tera, okay? Into Ghost Tera. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're going for this, it's just for a stronger Ghost type attack, essentially. But Rayquaza just absolutely destroyed in this game. Extreme Speed just gets another knockout here. I can't believe it one-shot the Kyogre, though. That's the thing. If you're not running a lot of defensive bulk, like, this Choice Band combo is just so powerful. So they're going to go for Ghost Tera Shadow Sneak here, trying to knock us out. Not going to KO. It will prevent the... Oh, and they're actually Life Orb as well. Okay. Prevent Sucker Punch. But, yeah, I mean, the game is just over from here. Last turn of Tailwind. I can switch out into Okidogi. Protect here with Chien-Pao. And then we can just Sucker Punch and knock off. So, yeah, I think like Rayquaza's power is just so strong here, and it's like normal Tera choice band extreme speed and sort of rune, even to something that resists it. I mean, we saw it do 50 damage, or 50% to the crown, right? Which is a testament to how powerful it is. This Life Orb Brambleghast, by the way, also doing a ton of damage. But yeah, they just like basically let me extreme speed sucker punch everything. The way they could have played around this was like switching in Brambleghast basically, and baiting a double up into that slot. But now I can just sucker punch knockoff. Okay, they're gonna Shadow Sneak, but that's fine. Like, Sucker just covers for if you end up targeting Okidogi with something that's not a priority attack, right? So, we just built up such a big lead here. I actually think Brambleghast would have been a pretty huge issue for us, but I can see why my opponent didn't want to lead it, because it's really weak into Chien-Pao, given that you're not Focus Sash and you're Ghost Tera. But something like Tornadus Brambleghast may have worked for them, although I think in that situation, I would have just gone normal Tera Extreme Speed into Tornadus and then Sucker Punch into Brambleghast. But yeah, in a matchup like this where our opponent doesn't really have that much defense and we have so much power, it allows us to just like snowball the game essentially. So yeah, I think like the counterplay, if you're on my opponent's side, is essentially protecting either Iron Crown or Kyogre and also switching in Brambleghast, right? So it's not like this duo just like always wins. I actually think it's pretty difficult to use, and it's quite rare for you to be able to just click Extreme Speed and Sucker Punch this much. But yeah, I didn't see a lot of counterplay to the Rayquaza plus the Chien-Pao lead, because like there was no Fake Out, for example, there was no Psychic Terrain or Farigiraf, and so I was like, I think Extreme Speed in general here should really crush against most of my opponent's team. And the beautiful thing about the Chien-Pao Rayquaza combo is, if you think about the Pokemon that Rayquaza doesn't want to go up against, the Ghost types, the Steel types, well, that's what Chien-Pao's perfect for, because then you can hit those for super effective damage. But Rayquaza was incredible in that one. Okay, we've got Arubega Miraidon here. Ogerpon, Whimsicott, Miraidon, Farigiraf, Iron Hands, Urshifu, the team that won the World Championships. So, when I play against this team, I like leading Weexzing, Chi-Yu. I think like Weexzing, Chi-Yu, Chien-Pao, Rayquaza are all really strong. Now, I feel like 80% of these teams that I've been playing on ladder recently have been Focus Sash on Whimsicott rather than Covert Cloak, which makes sense. Like, Sash, I think, is really strong in a closed team sheet environment, and because people expect Covert Cloak so frequently, it's just such a consistent item. But I like going with this because basically there are a couple things you want to consider. First of all, Iron Hands is actually a huge threat to us. We don't have many ways of really dealing significant damage to us, to it, and it can heal back and do a lot to us. We have Will-O-Wisp from Weexzing, which can of course burn Iron Hands, which is really handy. And then Weexzing, I think, ends up being like kind of the secret MVP because it shuts off Miraidon from setting up terrain. It shuts off Farigiraf's Armor Tail, and then it also shuts off Prankster from Whimsicott. So all of that means that you are really going to not get as much value out of your abilities. And then Weexzing actually does meaningful damage with Sludge Bomb into Whimsicott, into Fire Ogerpon, Will-O-Wisp into Iron Hands. One of the things to also think about is setting up Rayquaza for success with Extreme Speed. If you can knock out Farigiraf, that's great, right? It's easier said than done, but that's one of the reasons I like leading Weexzing plus the Chi-Yu, because I've had opponents lead like Miraidon Farigiraf into us before. And so if that ends up being the case, then I pressure with just like Dark Pulse immediately, which is really nice, right? And I have Taunt, I can Dark Pulse Taunt immediately into Farigiraf, for example. But yeah, I think like one of the key strengths, of course, and it is Miraidon Farigiraf. Okay, cool. Yeah, if they're going with this, like I'm leaning towards turn one going. I could Snarl actually, because I'm not sure Dark Pulse KOs anyway. Snarl Taunt is the play I'm leaning towards here. I think they'll probably Volt Switch and try to bring Iron Hands out, is my guess. I could also just Dark Pulse here, I think. But then you do a lot more damage, which is scary, and you could Psychic me as well. Okay, they go for Helping Hand. I'm okay with this, since with the Snarl, I should survive, I think, anything that you go for. But without the Snarl, I would have gotten probably crushed by Miraidon. Yeah, they're gonna... Wow, okay, Snarl Drift immediately into Weexzing. Just kind of like a... That was dangerously close. But I think that's a big risky play to make, because normally, like, Weezings like to protect on turn one, like, in that situation, right? But now I get Taunt. Great. do think the Protect now is so obvious this next turn that I'm actually thinking about just Sludge Bombing here and Snarling. But I feel like there's such little downside to protecting here, honestly, that I'm still going to just protect. Now that I've taunted for a graph. I like my opponent's conviction to just say, you know what, I'm going to try to go all in on Weexzing on turn 1. But yeah, I think most players often end up Volt Switching here on turn 1 into Chi-Yu, right? Because it's like Weexzing is likely to protect, you can Volt Switch, you can pivot out into something like Iron Hands, for example. Since we end up surviving that turn 1, I don't mind this trade at all. If Weexzing goes down, it's probably a different outcome. But they're actually going to commit Tera here. Okay. Tera Miraidon, I guess? Yeah. Interesting. You take less damage from Snarl, obviously, with this. But it'll be a -2 Electro Drift into Chi-Yu, and then I can knock out Farigiraf, and once Farigiraf's down, I think we can just Extreme Speed everything with Rayquaza, which is like kind of the ideal output here. Weexzing shutting off abilities is really relevant right now, and won't be super crucial once Farigiraf faints. Okay, yep, they do drift there. So I could have Sludge Bomb, but I actually think it's better to not Sludge Bomb here to prevent... That doesn't even do half to us, wow. Yeah, and they just Psychic Noise. Okay, brilliant. Great. I could conserve Weexzing right now, but then it sets up Electric Trade. Like, if I switch Weexzing out into Chien-Power Rayquaza, for example, like, is that trade really worth it? I'm not sure. I think Farigiraf here actually probably should contemplate switching, truthfully, into Hands or Ursh. I actually do think I want to conserve Weexzing right now. Yeah, I'm going to switch in Chien-Pao. Snarl again. Yeah. Oh, Miraidon switches. I thought Farigiraf would be the one to switch, but I guess they were like, I'm at -2. What am I really doing with Miraidon? And I think that makes sense. But this is really good for us then. The reason I wanted to switch Weexzing was because I was like, let's say Farigiraf switches out into Iron Hands, and then you have... yeah, like Farigiraf still in the back, then I can't Extreme Speed as easily, right? So let's see if Farigiraf switches as well. If not, and we get a KO, it's huge for us, in my opinion. But they do make the double switch. Nicely done. Okay. Iron Hands or Whimsicott? It's Whimsicott, okay. Works for me. Snarl breaks a potential Focus Sash, does meaningful damage into Ogerpon here. I think, yeah, now that I know all of your Pokemon and everything's so low, this is definitely a normal Tera E-Speed game from Rayquaza. What I can do here is Ice Spinner into Whimsicott and then switch Chi-Yu out into Weexzing. This shuts off Prankster. Their way to get around this is Follow Me, obviously. So I thought about actually going for Stellar Tera here to get the damage boost. But I also think it's fine if we don't get the damage boost. Or if they... Well, first of all, let's see if they Follow Me, because they might just attack here. If they attack, I think we just win. Oh, interesting. They actually make the switch. Okay, I'm fine with this, because now it opens the door for Extreme Speed. Farigiraf faints. And now it means even if Weexzing faints, it's fine. But that's probably Ivy Cudgel into Chien-Pao. Oh, wow. They target the Weexzing slot. Even better. Okay, great. We're going to go for that. Follow Me will probably move before Rayquaza. We already Tera'd your Miraidon. I can bring out Chi-Yu, which gives me Heat Wave. If I bring out Rayquaza, I can always normal Tera E-Speed at this point. Yeah, I think I don't mind bringing out Ray here. Because I think normal Tera E-Speed should KO everything now. So one comes out. Right, like what's stopping Ice Spinner, Whimsicott, normal Tera, Extreme Speed, Ogerpon? Your best play is Spiky Shield, Tailwind, but then I knock out Whimsicott, and then the next turn I just launch Extreme Speed into Miraidon since I've gotten all that chip damage onto you, right? And I still have Focus Sash intact as well, so I think we should have this locked up, but let's see. Oh, cool. They don't even protect Ogerpon. Beautiful. Yeah, that's often what this matchup feels like it's about, is like finding the position to... like using Weexzing in the early game to really disrupt, and then finding an end game with Rayquaza. You can also have a situation where it's like Rayquaza's out next to Farigiraf, and you're just spamming Extreme Speeds. But yeah, this game worked out really, really well. That turn 1 obviously pretty scary with Electro Drift, but that's exactly why I clicked Snarl. And like I said, I think it's very common for opponents to Volt Switch there, so it was a really nice call for them to say, you know what, I'm just going to try to go in on offense, but fortunately we survive. So Miraidon comes back out, but getting that chip damage is really crucial because now the Miraidon, even a bulky Miraidon, is going to feint to Extreme Speed in terrain. Or sorry, not in terrain, in Sword of Ruin. Yep. So Choice Band, Normal Tera, Defense Drop, and Miraidon falls there. So basically in that situation, I was like, what can my opponent even do, right? The best play they could do is Spiky Shield on Ogerpon, and then Whimsicott Tailwinds, but then I knock out Whimsicott, you bring out Miraidon, I Extreme Speed then into Miraidon. If you don't follow me, Miraidon feints. If you follow me, Ogerpon feints, right? So if Ogerpon feints, Miraidon can maybe Dazzling Gleam, but then I have Focus Sash, I get a Ice Spinner off, and then Ice Spinner, I think, into Sucker Punch probably is going to be a knockout, and even if it isn't, yeah, I guess the question is, what would Miraidon even lock itself into, right? I think it has to be Dazzling Gleam. If it's Electro Drift or Draco, you definitely lose. You need to go Gleam. And I don't think Gleam even knocks out Rayquaza since we're basically at full HP. So, yeah. But I think this game showcases how you can like play in a really interesting manner into the World Champion team, and how Weexzing is actually can be a very, very effective tool. And it's not intuitive to like want to think about clicking Extreme Speed with Rayquaza a lot when your opponent has Farigiraf, but the combination of Weexzing and Chi-Yu being disruptive can open these doors for the late game. By the way, if you wanted to know, this Weexzing is 100% designed to survive Miraidon's Electro Drift, basically outside of Electric Terrain, even if its Choice Spec's max special attack. So the Snarl was really crucial, of course, in bringing it down to -1 to counteract the helping hand in that game. If you take away the Snarl, then it is obviously a guaranteed KO here. And so that basically completely saved us on turn 1. And yeah, made the game much, much more doable. I think if Weexzing just goes down on turn 1, it's so much harder because then Electric Terrain just sets up immediately, and then Miraidon is still able to just click Electro Drift fairly easily to do massive amounts of damage. Zamazenta here with Garganacl. I haven't seen Garganacl in such a long time. The one use case I can think of it from the last couple of months was I think like Stefan Mott using it with what was like Moringa Berry. But otherwise, yeah, not a common Pokemon. Zama, though, also not, like, the best matchup for Rayquaza, so we have to be a little bit careful here. Mainly because, like, Rayquaza itself is really bad into Zama. I wouldn't say really bad. I mean, Dragon Ascent still does, like, okay damage, but you just, like, don't get much value out of, like, Giga Impact, Extreme Speed, U-Turn. So what do I want to bring here? Again, Zama, like, Weexzing is nice, although we are Galar Weexzing, so you can heavy slam us. What would I lead if I were them into us? I might consider just leading Zama immediately. I feel like they're relatively Chi-Yu weak, so this is something I want to take advantage of. Flutter's really bad into Zama. She's going to get absolutely demolished by it. Chien-Pao and Ray are must-brings as well. I think these three are, like, no-brainer. I might go Chi-Yu Weexzing, honestly, because Weexzing threatens... Like, it prevents your defense boost, and it threatens Will-O-Wisp. This is just really Landorus weak, but I could switch into Rayquaza if they lead it. Yeah, I think, like, they do have 3 special attackers, but Okidogi is, like, doesn't love going up against Landorus. It's not a bad bring here, but my fundamental problem with it is, like, is it really doing enough damage, right? Like, against a +1 defense Zama, I'm, like, Drain Punching you. It's not bad. But I'm just also threatened by a lot. I think Okidogi's main appeal to me is actually for the Raging Bolt, because I can soak up damage and heal back pretty considerably. But yeah, maybe I'm showing a little too much respect to Landorus. Oh, that's why. There's the instant Lando lead. Okay. I mean, it's like fairly easy, I think, to switch Chi-Yu out into Rayquaza here on turn 1, protect Weexzing. The other alternative I'm thinking is Ghost Tera, Overheat, switch Weexzing out so I get Beads of Ruin active. The problem with that is we don't one-shot Landorus. I mean, this is modish Chi-Yu. I kind of expect Overheat to get the knockout. I think I'm going to go for it. Overheat. Switch into Ray. I also think Ghost Tera on Chi-Yu is like generally not bad in this matchup because it also just walls Zamazenta. Cool. Ray hits the field. And the nice thing is Weexzing gets Intimidated and not Rayquaza, so I switched it in without eating up Intimidate. The dream would be to one-shot Landorus here. Getting rid of Landorus paves the way for Weexzing to then come back out onto the field. Like, my goal would be that turn 1 they fake out fails, I one-shot Landorus, they bring out Zama, turn 2 I switch Chien-Pao in. They didn't fake out, but I missed Overheat. It's really bad. Knock off into Chi-Yu. Hitting that would have been so huge. Although, kudos to them because they didn't go for fake out. But I honestly would have... I think I still would have been okay trading Chi-Yu for Landorus there. Because then it's a free switch into Chien-Pao, and it's Chien-Pao plus Rayquaza. I mean, I still have that right now, so it's like not the complete end of the world, but really nice play to not go for fake out there on turn 1. Just a shame to miss the overheat, because I like that at least puts us in a better position. Ice Spinner here is so obvious. I think this could be a Zama switch in, and I'm already behind in this game. And you know, this is important to note. When you play with this team, you are going to miss moves, right? Like, you have a lot of inaccurate moves between Chi-Yu having basically almost all inaccurate moves, Weexzing having Will-O-Wisp, as well as Okidogi having Gunk Shot. And so it's like, it's just to be expected. And honestly, my opponent made a great play by not going for fake out on turn 1. And so it's like, even if I had hit that, it's not like I like have a huge advantage immediately, right? But yeah, I think I'm going to Sacred Sword here, because if I catch Zama on the switch, it would be absolutely huge. And then Dragon Ascent into Instant. Okay, they go for Tera. That also makes sense. They went Tera goes Instant. Okay. Are they protecting with Landorus? Because if not, I could have gotten a double knockout with the Ice Spinner. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. What? That's not how I expected this turn to play out. I'm shocked Landorus just let itself like be potentially exposed in front of Chien-Pao like that. But you can see the upside of Sword of Ruin plus Rayquaza. We just one-shot the Incineroar there. The problem is I have lost a lot of tools to deal with Zamazenta already. If I went Ice Spinner there, we would have been totally okay. But I don't really regret making that read because I felt like it was very likely Landorus would Tera or switch into Zama. And I'm shocked to see it just like stay in front of Chien-Pao. Like, I wonder if they meant to Tera the other way, honestly. Flutter comes out now. No booster energy. That's really interesting. So it's probably Specs Flutter. Huh. Okay, another thing to note is that Weexzing, it can burn Zama, but it's not going to do... The only way it can actually really beat Zama is getting a Sacred Sword with Chien-Pao off, because I lost Chi-Yu so early on. Wouldn't be surprised if this just Dazzling Gleams or Moonblasts. Yeah, I think I need them to mess up here. Well, they do switch out. I mean, if I somehow one-shot Flutter Mane with Ice Spinner, because you're offensive Flutter, this actually works. That's what I was playing towards, but I don't think I will. It's Jolly. It's not even Ice Cold Crash. Flutter should survive, I think. Yeah. Dazzling Gleam. I could have switched Rayquaza out there, but then I still lose Chien-Pao. Ray gets crit. I think ultimately, yeah, like, turn 1, I made a pretty aggressive play, and we didn't get anything out of it. Like, if the overheat hits, at least, like, they're forced to at least bring out another Pokemon. But I actually think maybe I should have just kept Chi-Yu in the back in this one. Instant Landorus was a pretty hard lead for us, and yeah. What could I have brought against Instant Landorus? it's tough because, like, maybe Okidogi and then I Tera turn 1. But yeah, anyway, this game is over. But I wish we could have seen how this game would have played out if the overheat hit. I also want to pull up the damage calc and see what that calc looks like. But because, like I said, they were very smart and went for knockoff into that slot as well. With me going for Ghost Tera, they still would have gotten the knockout. Where if they had gone for kind of what is seen as a more safe fake out on turn 1. I guess that's not even necessarily safe specifically because of Ghost Tera. So it's really smart of them to cover for it. Like, it means that I could have just stayed, like, gone non-Tera overheat, and then with them going for knockoff, like, that could have had a pretty big payoff, because then it's like, if I hit, I get the knockout onto Landers, presumably, but I want to calc against no bulk Landers as well as bulky Landers and see what that looks like. Yeah, so overheat is definitely a knockout onto the Landers here. This is actually a really crazy calc. I didn't realize that even if you're like almost basically max HP Landorus, overheat is still actually a one-hit knockout with Beads of Rune active and Modest. Like, this is really, really impressive to me. So we should knock out that Landorus on turn 1. The thing is, then I trade the I trade the Landers for the Chi-Yu since my opponent went for that really nice knockoff play, and I'd actually give them the advantage from there still, right? But then the thing is, yeah, like, where would I play the game afterwards, right? Because, like, Rayquaza's out on the field, but I can't Tera it, so I have to bring out Chien-Pao or Weexzing. And then the awkward thing is I actually probably need to switch out the Rayquaza because it turns out they are Choice Specs Flutter main rather than, like, Booster Energy Flutter main. That's not something I would have really expected because normally with Zama, you really like Booster Flutter with speed because you can Icy Wind and, yeah, drop the opposing speed. And so given that they had offensive Flutter in the back as well as Zama, I actually think, like, it's not like the overheat miss just cost me the game. And it's because my opponent went for that very nice knockoff play on turn 1 rather than going for fake out, covering for Ghost Tera. What it means, like I said, though, is if I actually just didn't Ghost Tera turn 1, overheat and overheat hits, then we should have a pretty big advantage. Although losing Choice Scarf actually also makes a big difference because it means Chi-Yu is now slower than them. But kind of what part of the fundamental problem for us matchup-wise in that last one was that, like, Rayquaza feels really bad to bring into Fluttermane and Zama, so I don't want to lead with it. But then my opponent had a, like, really, really solid lead into, like, Chi-Yu. Weexzing, like, really good into Zama, but not really good into the rest of the team. And sometimes with Weexzing, it can feel like absolute dead weight. So then the question is, so maybe, like, I should have dropped Weexzing for another Pokemon in that matchup. But I do think, like, Zama is pretty tricky to begin with. Like I said, I think maybe one of the other alternatives is leading Okidogi, getting that Guard Dog boost immediately because then I pressure with Drain Punch. But then as you saw, they also had the Ghost Tera on Incineroar, right? So, like, yeah, like, Weexzing Okidogi, that's really slow. If I lead, like, Rayquaza or Chien-Pao, those are fake out bait, right? So I do think, like, yeah, fake out plus something really powerful like Landers can be kind of scary to deal with because you don't have protects on most Pokemon on this team. Okay, we have the Lunala team that just won Vancouver Regionals. As we wrap up this regulation, you know, it makes sense to see people using this team. This is one of the strongest teams that just won a major tournament in this format. And, yeah, it's just such a good team if you're looking to climb the ladder and get some more experience in the format. The upside of going up against this team is obviously knowing its sets. Flutter is interesting here. Okidogi is Dark Tera, and there's no Moonblast on Lunala, so that's also a possible bring. I don't think we need Weexzing in this one. Chi-Yu is not bad because of Snarl, but I think the biggest hurdle we have to get through is probably Meteor Beam. I haven't gone with Fluttermane Rayquaza, but I think that actually is really powerful here. Yeah. Chi-Yu in the back. Okidogi fourth. I don't know if I love dropping Chien-Pao. Yeah, I think I actually probably should be bringing Chien-Pao more here. Okay, let's go with this. The reason I ultimately ended up with Chien-Pao is because I think it's just better offense for us, and it has Focus Sash. Like, the problem with Okidogi is it's not the fastest, right? And it's even threatened by Psychic from Indeedee, as well as a super effective Earth Power from Landorus. But it's tempting here because I can Dark Tera, I can knock off into Lunala. It's really good into Lunala specifically. It's going to be Roaring Moon Indeedee. Okay. I think I am okay with this. I think what we can do is just Icy Wind Dragon Ascent immediately. Indeedee should probably follow me. Roaring Moon should probably Tailwind. Okay. But yeah, I think I'm content going Icy Wind here. I do have Choice Band U-Turn as well, which is really interesting. But I think I'm fine going Icy Wind Dragon Ascent, because then it's like I get to just keep spamming this, potentially. I'm also not convinced I, one-shot Indeedee with Choice Band U-Turn plus Icy Wind. Like, I would expect it to survive. So, yeah. Part of the reason I didn't, feel super comfortable with Okidogi as well, because it's, if, I have it out against Roaring Moon and Indeedee, here, I'd probably have to commit my Tera immediately. And it wouldn't be terrible, but Flying Tera Acro is scary. You could obviously follow me with Indeedee Acro into me. There's the Tera commit. Yep. I think this is fine, though. Flying Tera on the Roaring Moon. This now means also you're not affected by the Psychic Terrain, so I can go for Stellar Sucker Punch potentially into you. Okay, we get Icy Wind off. They're gonna Acrobatics. Let's see who they target. Acro and Array. We survived that. Brilliant. And we get Dragon Ascent off. This means no Tailwind either, right? So I can just Icy Wind the Roaring Moon this next turn and then Dragon Ascent it. Yep. So I think this is a fine trade on turn 1. Part of the knowledge here is knowing that they don't have Protect on the Indeedee, knowing that I can basically get a knockout onto this with this double up. So we force Tera out. Ray is obviously relatively low, but I think it's not bad for us. If Lunala comes out, I think I can just Icy Wind Draco. Or sorry, Dragon Ascent. If it's Lunala, you'll have Meteor Beam. They actually bring out Landorus. Okay. Landorus. Well, obviously you're going to be super weak to Icy Wind, so I'm definitely Icy Winding here. Actually, I said I could Protect. I think it's wait, also, how fast are we? 125? Does Roaring Moon outspeed us? Because I think this was max speed Roaring Moon, right? So even at -1, I'm worried about it outpacing us. You just Acro here. But then you wouldn't knock out Flutter Mane. Yeah, I think I'm fine going Icy Wind Dragon Ascent. Because I have Chi-Yu in the back still, which can just start snarling everything as well. They don't protect either Pokemon, which is totally fine by me. Nice. Yeah, Moon is faster, as I mentioned. But this is fine, right? Because basically in my head, I was like, you're going to be faster, but you maybe knock out Flutter Mane, and then I trade knockouts, and I think that's totally worth it. And Earth Power here shouldn't KO us either. Yeah, exactly. And assuming Lunala is your last one now, I can just bring out Chi-Yu. I have Beads of Ruin, right? So Icy Wind now will KO Landorus, and I can just Dark Pulse. What I didn't want to do there was switch out and give my opponent a potential double knockout. Rayquaza's not that great into Lunala if Psychic Terrain is up, right? So I'm actually not 100% confident on Moonblast KOing. It's just scary because Icy Wind could miss. But this is obviously fairly bulky Landorus. So yeah, I'm going to Icy Wind here. Dark Pulse into Moon. If you switch into Lunala, Lunala just gets immediately destroyed. Their best play is, yeah, this is what they're going for here, which is protect Roaring Moon and hope for an Icy Wind miss. We've got Chien-Pao in the end game, so that'll beat Lunala pretty easily. But Icy Wind doesn't miss, fortunately. Great. Beats a Rune active. That knocks out Landorus. Perfect. Yeah, I'm really happy about the way I sequenced this game. It felt like every play was relatively safe. The only different play here is whether or not, if we think Moonblast is a guaranteed knockout onto Landorus with Beats of Rune, it's better to go for there. To not risk the 5% miss chance. There's Lunala as the last one. Perfect. How many turns of terrain are left? 2. I'm happy to actually just Moonblast Lunala here and Dark Pulse it. Because this Lunala doesn't have Protect. You do have Chien-Pao in the back. You can Meteor Beam, but once you Meteor Beam, you can't really even do much to us. Like, basically, yeah, because I could lose to Roaring Moon double Protect right now, right? And unless they change something about the team and threw Protect onto Lunala, this should work. Okay, they don't go for a double, but that's fine. It's funny, like, I think, yeah, the one way I could lose this is if my opponent, like, made a big deviation from the way this team was initially built and threw on Protect on Lunala. The problem is, it's like, it doesn't really have the room for Protect. You kind of need all of its moves. So, Acro here will come out. Cheat you, but that does not get the knockout. And now we can just go Moonblast plus Dark Pulse. I think this game highlights like one of the upsides of Rayquaza in that, like, yes, it didn't really do much other than get one knockout onto Indeedee, but that initial knockout onto Indeedee is actually really, really important. And then Rayquaza was also bulky enough to bait out like multiple attacks from my opponent's end, right? I also think my opponent may have had a better shot if they brought Lunala out first rather than the Landorus, because with Landorus, it's like Icy Wind was just doing so much damage. With Lunala, like, I don't threaten you with as much damage. They may have been worried about a potential Shadow Ball from Flutter Mane, which would make sense, but the shield was at least still active for them. One of the downsides for us in this game was running slow Rayquaza punished us in the sense that if we had more speed investment, we could just outspeed Roaring Moon at -1 speed, even with Booster Energy active. Or sorry, it was at -2 speed, but Booster was active. But because the Rayquaza here is like a lot bulkier, it doesn't have as much speed investment, like the Roaring Moon was still faster. But it was okay, right, at the end of the day, because the Moon could only get one knockout there. And in my head, I was like, Lunala should be your last one. I've got Chien-Pao. I've got my 2 Dark-type Pokemon, which I've conserved this entire game just to deal with through Lunala. So I should be okay. But yeah, in some games, Rayquaza is going to be like the carry and just KO everything, and in other games, it's going to be the Pokemon that just does like good damage or maybe gets a one big knockout. But that knockout's a big deal, right? Because Indeedee otherwise can redirect attacks away, and Flutter Mane's not very good if it's getting its Moonblasts redirected, for example, or if you have defensive Tera from the Icy Wind. In this case, with them bringing Landorus and Roaring Moon, they were actually super Flutter Mane weak, so it made things even better for Flutter Mane. But yeah, knocking out Indeedee just means that that's like one threat out of the way immediately. And that's also important because Psychic Terrain can be annoying if we want to play towards like Extreme Speed, Rayquaza, or Sucker Punch Chien-Pao. Okay, Calyrex, Shadow Rider here, Incin, Ursh, Rilla, Clef, Tornadus. This feels like kind of the Calyrex teams that people were using when the format first started, and now that we are almost done with the format, it feels like we've really come full circle. Torn Ursh is one of my concerns in terms of lead matchups. So basically, like, extreme speed against no bulk Urshifu if we normal Tera, Choice Band, or if they have like 4 HP, for example, is like, I think, 68.75% chance to get a one-hit knockout. Into Calyrex, normally you want Okidogi, Chiyu, Chien-Pao. Weezing has merit in this one. Actually, has a ton of merit because it can taunt Sludge Bomb Will-O-Wisp and turn off Tornadus' Prankster, so they lead Torn Ursh. Like, I can go Weezing, Chien-Pao, and just Ice Spinner Will-O-Wisp turn 1. Alternatively, I think we can go Ray, Chien-Pao, Chiyu, Okidogi. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think basically normally into Shadow Rider teams I lead Chiyu because Chiyu just like puts on so much pressure with Snarl immediately, but if I lead Chiyu into Torn Ursh here, it's really bad, I think. If it's Torn Ursh, then the other debate is what do I go for on turn 1? I can normal Tera Extreme Speed, Sucker Punch into Ursh. Yeah, it is Torn Ursh. Okay, cool. They could go Tailwind, Protect turn 1. They could Rain... they wouldn't Rain Dance here ever, actually. Uchi Okidogi in the back. Like, I'm leaning towards doubling up onto Ursh here. But it's a question of what item we think Ursh is. Is it Sash or Mystic Water? It could be Scarf as well. They could also switch that out into Calyrex, which would be really scary. I'm going to double up Torn. I went Sucker Punch as well in case they Bleak Wind instead of Tailwinding. They're staying in here with Ursh. I hope that means they're just protecting it. No Tera. Okay, neither Tera, but I think that's fine. Nice, that one shot's torn. Okay, cool. This accomplishes then like the general goal, which is break potential Focus Sash on the Urshifu and deny Tailwind. With no Tailwind, this now means Chi-Yu outpaces my opponent. So that's Sash gone now. That did 49, so I think that is Focus Sash on Ursh. Okay, great. Not bad. It didn't need to be a Sucker Punch, though. It could have been Sacred Sword. I think it's probably more optimal to Sacred there, because I don't, like... In what world? I guess they could protect Bleak Wind turn 1, and they're super bulky torn, and then Tailwind on turn 2, but... Yeah, I think it's probably strictly better to Sacred Sword there. Could be Clef coming out. Shadow Rider, okay. Your play now, if you're my opponent, is to protect the Urshifu, right? I can obviously Extreme Speed into this. You can't Astral Barrage into me, which is great. I do need the special or the defense drop to be able to threaten this. I mean, the good thing is if Calyrex Terras, you just get popped by Rayquaza, right? This might Nasty Plot right now on me. I think I'm actually happy to Extreme Speed here and Ice Spinner into Calyrex. Okay, they switch out. Is that Clef? Yep. Calyrex didn't go for Tera, so I'm curious, did it attack here? That does so much damage. It does Nasty Plot. Okay, cool. So we get Ice Spinner off. That's good damage. Okay. Fairy Tera Draining Kiss is normally what we expect from this. You could obviously go follow me, Fairy Tera Draining Kiss. You could also protect with this. You could Helping Hand. If this protects this Terra's, Extreme Speed pops you. I'm thinking Extreme Speed Sucker Punch double up in a Calyrex. If Clef follow me's, then Extreme Speed goes into Clef, Sucker goes into Calyrex. Even if they Tera, then I bring out Chi-Yu and I can just overheat. Okay, they do Tera. The Calyrex, yep. I mean, it should be follow me here, but if for some reason they protected, we win the game immediately. Wait, what is Clef going for? That feels so good, though. Oh, I forgot about the, this one always, yeah. We have, it's the same priority. And so, because we're faster with Rayquaza, we actually get the Extreme Speed off first anyway. I always forget about that. Mainly because, like, Extreme Speed is +1, like one priority higher, it's +2, right? Rather than +1. Yeah, so now I can just Extreme Speed into you. Ice Spinner into Clef. It means then, like, the way I could have lost this game is if they didn't Tera there and they went follow me. Clef protects. Okay, but we get to target down the Urshifu. I probably should have gone for a Sucker Punch there as well, but this is fine. Oh, Ray just pops it there. Nice. Cool. But yeah, Extreme Speed specifically always being +1 priority higher than like your normal priority moves. Always messes me up a little bit, but Rayquaza was incredible in this one. He just was so dominant across the board. And we didn't even bring out Chi-Yu, right? Chi-Yu was the main Pokemon I had. Okidogi, by the way, also really good in this endgame because I have Gunk Shot into, you know, Clefairy as well as the Calyrex Shadow Rider. But so satisfying to, yeah, force the Tera out of Calyrex and then just get it with the Extreme Speed. Like, that feels so good. Ooh, this is the Zacian team that I believe just got second in the most recent Grand Challenge, which is obviously an incredible performance, right? Like, thousands of people participating in that tournament. Yeah, I actually, like, I've seen the 6 Pokemon, but I haven't seen the team itself yet, and so I imagine that there's probably some really, really crazy sets. I think one thing that makes this tricky for us is Zacian itself is pretty good into Rayquaza, so we're going to struggle a little bit there, I think. So that's, like, the first thing to pay attention to. But, yeah, I think the team reporter for this actually posted a team report for it, so it's a team that I would like to try out at some point myself as well. But let's see. Yeah, I think, like, Zacian and Zama are 2 of the scarier Pokemon to go up against, and I think this is kind of a nightmare, because if you think about how we normally want to deal with Zacian, it's probably Chi-Yu, but they have Ting-Lu and Pelipper. Ting-Lu, by the way, an absolute menace. I had one practice game where I lost against a Ground Tera Ting-Lu. I had Terra'd my Rayquaza, and Ground Tera Ting-Lu and Trick Room Earthquaked everything. It was crazy. Normally, when I see Incineroar, I think about leading Okidogi, so I think we go for this. What do I want to lead it with? Okidogi Ray. Chimpao. It feels crazy to not even bring Chi-Yu. Yeah, I'm going to bring it. I think it's like, because we're also Galar Weexzing here, we're so weak into Zacian anyway. So if it were Kanto Weexzing, I would think about it a bit more. But I dread this matchup on paper. I think Rayquaza just cannot do much damage into Zacian, which is already a huge part of the problem. And Zacian is obviously not like a super common restricted. It's going to be Urshifu Ting-Lu. Okay. Not terrible for us. Drain Punch immediately. Dragon Ascent. I mean, truthfully, I think Ursh is in a pretty bad spot right now. I think this going for a Tera would make a lot of sense. I think I'm going to go Knockoff here and Dragon Ascent into Ting-Lu. Here's a Tera. Hoping it's Ting-Lu Tera and that we just KO it, but it's maybe a little ambitious. Okay, it is Ting-Lu Tera. Yep, into Poison. That works for me. They're just surging us. That's fine. The problem is just there's so many threats to deal with. Like, everything on their team does damage, and so I feel like I need to literally respect all of it. That makes it really hard to play. Let's Dragon Ascent. I mean, that's actually really good damage. Can't complain about that. Oh, that doesn't KO. And it's Banded Ting-Lu? Oh my gosh. Well, in the grand scheme of things, I actually can't complain about this too much. If I had Flutter, this actually would have been really good. With Flutter, I would have been able to Icy Wind Dragon Ascent, but I don't have Flutter. I think it's probably just Chi-Yu. I might have to Ghost Tera Chi-Yu though, honestly. Angle for a double KO. The problem is, like, I can't switch anything easily right now. So I'm thinking Ghost Tera, Heat Wave here, Dragon Ascent. If I brought out Chimpao, the problem is I don't know the Ursh item. They switch probably Pelly. Yeah. This is still looking so tough. I guess my fire type damage at least isn't reduced, but and surging doesn't get the like increase from rain. But like I still have Zacian to deal with in this end game, and I think that's the problem because Rayquaza, like my restricted is just so bad into theirs. Could always get a burn here. Oh, that's no, it doesn't KO us. Okay, good. We should survive. The problem here is they can just wide guard this next turn. Like, I can't stop wide guard plus Behemoth Blade into Rayquaza, right? But Chi-Yu does have Overheat. So I guess it's probably switch Chi-Yu out into Chimpao, sack Rayquaza. because Zacian should come out now. Yeah, I wonder if I had gotten the knockout on turn 1, if anything would have been different. Because I even baited out the Tera, made the right play, but it still wasn't enough, unfortunately. Maybe I needed a different lead then. They were smart to not bring Instant into this game. I'll think about what I could have done afterwards, but for now, we're still playing the game, so let's focus on the match. I feel like I need Chi Overheat for this, so yeah, I gotta switch out into Chien-Pao. Dragon Ascent into Pelly. But yeah, I think Zacian and Zama. Zacian with Rain here and Wide Guard support is like just even tougher. Okay, they do Wide Guard. Yeah, so my hope is you knock out Rayquaza. I mean, it'd be great if they targeted... did they target the Chi-Yu slot? That would be huge. Oh my gosh, they did. Wait, we might be okay then. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Because I know your Choice Band Ting Lu, so I get a guaranteed knockout onto that with Sucker Punch. And I think I just stay in with Rayquaza. I think if they targeted Rayquaza here, I would have lost the game on the spot. So I'm really shocked that they didn't, but I'll gladly take it. It's like, even in the worst matchups, like, finding one play can sometimes give you an opportunity, right? So I think here we can Sucker Punch always into Ting Lu. Let's think things through, though. We still have, like, 35 seconds, right? If I protect this, you could just Behemoth Blade Rayquaza. We should always... Like, this can't protect, right? It's Choice Band, so if it had a non-attacking move, that would be bad. But if that's the case, then so be it. I think we just Sucker here and Dragon Ascent. If I switch Rayquaza out into Chi-Yu, then and you target Chi-Yu down, that's just game over for me. And if I get this Dragon Ascent off, Chi-Yu can just finish Zama off. Or Zacian off. Okay, Sucker KOs Ting Lu. I assume you Behemoth Blade into Rayquaza, and then it's a 2v1 with Scarf Chi-Yu. Did they target Chien-Pao again? Oh. Well, now I think I definitely should win if I don't miss with Chi-Yu. Also, Dragon Ascent low-key might be a 2-hit knockout on his Zacian. It is. Okay. It's basically, do I think 2 Dark Pulses KO Zacian? I'm fairly sure the answer is yes. And if I go for that, Zacian does have priority, but it's quick attack. I think I can rely on not having to use my inaccurate moves and just Dark Pulse here and Dragon Ascent. Scarf Dark Pulse. Yep, that's a 2-hit KO. Cool. You knock out Rayquaza. But yeah, like, this is basically like guarantee the game versus 1% chance of losing the game to missing 2 Heat Waves or 2 Overheats. Dark Pulse can't miss. Cool. This was crazy. I'm shocked we won this. Well, I guess it's not over yet. I mean, I don't want to call the game until it's over. But I don't think Zacian has any priority. Let's not quick attack that could KO us here, right? Woof. That's why you don't give up in Pokemon, even if the matchup is abysmal. My opponent, yeah, if they just targeted Rayquaza, I think this game was done for sure. Because Rayquaza goes down, I don't get the knockout on a Pelipper, and then it's full HP Chien-Pao, low Chi-Yu versus 60% Pelipper and Zacian, right? And then, so it's like, yeah, I have Focus Sash on the Chien-Pao, but that's not enough. I can't, like, the fact they ignored the Rayquaza twice was really surprising to me, because, yeah, Choice Band Dragon Ascent was actually, like, really meaningful damage, and it got a knockout on a Pelipper, which I otherwise would have struggled to knock out. I think the other key thing is, yeah, if they knocked out Ray, like, the second time around, I would have had 1 HP Chien-Pao plus Chi-Yu. And then if in that scenario where I don't get the Dragon Ascent off, I might have to rely on actually hitting that Overheat or Heat Wave. And I also wasn't sure how much it was going to do to Zacian in Rain. But yeah, with me having gotten that Dragon Ascent off, I was like, oh, this should actually just be a guaranteed win. I don't even have to like risk missing my moves, which is really nice. I think it's like so scary to play with Chi-Yu when you end up in these end games where it's like I need to connect on a Heat Wave, and if I miss, I just lose. And in that end game, like because Rayquaza was still around, I could have gone for Heat Wave or Overheat twice, but like I was fairly confident 2 Dark Pulses with Beats of Ruin would get the knockout. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like even if you think you have a bad matchup, your opponent still has to make like the right plays, and just like one different targeting in this one completely opened the game back up for me here, which was huge. And like reading into the wide guard, which was huge as well. Like I didn't think they needed to target the Chi-Yu slot there that turn because they already had wide guard. I don't know what the Urshifu item is, but I'm curious if they like didn't identify that it was Choice Scarf, because if you know that I'm Choice Scarf, then I think you can always just go for. But I guess what they were thinking is like I can wide guard and then I can get guaranteed damage into whatever's coming out as well. Maybe they just underestimated Rayquaza's damage output, thinking there's no way Rayquaza's going to do anything into my Zacian, right? But with that Choice Band, allows us to one-shot Pelipper and deal so much to Zacian. So yeah, we just beat the team that finished second in the most recent global challenge. Kyurem Black, Galarian Zapdos, Gouging Fire, Gambit, Indeedee, Ursaluna. Okay. I can't remember the last Kyurem Black we fought, so I think that's really exciting. I don't really know what it does. I saw like a loaded dice set once, and I was like, okay, cool. Interesting. I'm like kind of contemplating just Rayquaza Chien-Pao here. Okidogi is not bad if I Tera it. I think Chi-Yu can be a good Pokemon to like, clean up the game with. Indeedee's like a little bit annoying for Rayquaza because obviously it can block Extreme Speed, but I can just go Ice Spinner with Chien-Pao. Ice Spinner U-turn one, like for example. Normal Tera Giga Impact would be kind of cool too. Flutter is like a lead option here. I just don't like it really into most things. Like if I'm bringing Flutter, it's mainly to taunt Indeedee and force a Tera to Kyurem. Zapdos, I would expect Focus Sash, Tailwind. But really cool team. It's just exciting to go up against a Pokemon that we basically never see. What is my goal here? Figure out what Kyurem does. I just have no idea. Like, I genuinely do not know. Kyurem White we've used, but Kyurem Black? Not common. It's going to be just Indeedee Zapdos, which is fine by me. Huh? I think here, honestly, I'm contemplating U-turn Ice Spinner turn 1, get rid of Indeedee, and that gets rid of Terrain so that Rayquaza can come back in and then start Extreme Speeding everything. I think I'm down for this. Because Terrain is really annoying for Rayquaza, right? I think Indeedee here probably wants to go follow me anyway. And it's not like I'm really at risk of getting one-shot by Zapdos. Indeedee could protect on turn 1, but I think that's risky in front of Chien-Pao. But I guess if you're Sash Zapdos, I think Protect Indeedee attack with Zapdos actually isn't like super, super wild. The Error Choice Scarf U-turn. Okay. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I think confirming that your Scarf is a big deal because it means that now I have this like situation where I get rid of Terrain and then Rayquaza can just come out. And then start Extreme Speeding everything. Although I have to be careful of burning Bulwark from Gouging Fire. They have a pretty good speed advantage here with Scarf on Zapdos and speed boosting Gouging. The other question I have is, are you Rocky Helmet here on Indeedee? Yep. One of the unique interactions, by the way, is if you faint from Rocky Helmet there, you actually don't get rid of the Terrain, which would have been very annoying for us. So had they actually gone for like a fighting type attack to get us down to Sash on turn 1, I would not have been able to get rid of Terrain. It's not like the #1 priority, but it obviously is quite helpful. Scarf Zapdos is scary. It means that I might actually go Chi-Yu and Ghost Tera with this. And then goes Tera Overheat into Zapdos. Because I think they'll probably want to bring Zapdos back in, right? I might also switch Chien-Pao out. But yeah, the speeds here make it a little bit tricky. It's gonna be Kyurem though, okay. That's so cool to see it floating like that. Terrabolt. It could be coaching, obviously. Yeah, I think I want to overheat into Kyurem, protect with Chien-Pao here. No Tera from their end, okay? Breaking Swipe, that's fine. She doesn't really care. I'm going to take some damage because of Sword of Ruin, but it's okay. Overheat doesn't miss. Fantastic. Almost just knocks out Kyurem. Beautiful. I think we're set up for a Rayquaza endgame then. Ooh. Dragon Dance. Okay. If you're my opponent, you should be worried about Sucker Punch, so what you should be doing is protecting Kyurem. I also, like, are you even faster than Scarf Chi-Yu even after that Dragon Dance? That's my other question. I think I'm down to overheat here, switch Chien-Pao out into Okidogi. The reason why I'm okay switching to Okidogi is because I want Chien-Pao's Sword of Ruin for later on in this game. Because once I pop the Kyurem, I know I can just demolish the Rayquaza. Or sorry, I can demolish Zapdos as well with Rayquaza. Yeah, Kyurem protects here. That's fine. It should be protect plus Breaking Swipe, I would think. 84 down to 44. That only did 40 damage, so it's not a knockout onto Chi-Yu. Now that Sword of Ruin's no longer up, which is big. I'm just going to overheat into Kyurem here and Drain Punch. I actually like knock off more because if they for some reason switched out into Zapdos, I would get rid of Scarf. I think the recovery is so negligible anyway. Nice. Chi-Yu hangs on. Cool. Yeah, we're just faster. Beautiful. Poor Kyurem. This was really the battle of the very, very low tier restricteds in this format, but we didn't really get to see what it wanted to do and what the rest of its offense was. Okay. Off Chien-Pao Rayquaza, they probably lock into Brave Bird here, right? This game is not won yet, actually, even though we're up 4-2. I could Dark Tera this, but I think I want to Tera Rayquaza so I can just extreme speed. The thing is, like, Gouging Fire, like, legitimately could still win this endgame for my opponent, which is kind of nuts to think about. Yeah, it's like they just have two Pokemon that are faster than me. Okay, they break and swipe. Makes sense. It is a shame like Gardog isn't like Defiant and only works if Intimidate gets you. Yeah, they Brave Bird. So now I have normal Tera Extreme Speed into Zapdos. Protect with the Chien-Pao. I also have Dragon Ascent available technically, which would allow me to one-shot Gouging, but I'm worried that they just... I mean, Breaking Swipe Brave Bird is bad for us here, right? I guess my question is whether or not Brave Bird one-shots Rayquaza with Sword of Ruin, since we are bulky, because if the answer is no, I think we can go for the knockout onto Gouging here.
Yeah, I'm thinking about targeting Gouging Fire here. Extreme Speed Sucker. Okay, they go for Tera. It could be Tera Ghost Zapdos as well, actually. It's Tera Steel. I mean, that's good for them. That's really good for them. Yeah, like, Kyurem wasn't really a problem for us in this game, but Okidogi being slower and then them having so much speed with gouging and Zapdos was a really big issue, wasn't it? Let's see if we one-shot gouging. My guess is no. Okay, no Burning Bulwark at least, which is good. Oh, so close. Okay, but the double up was correct. But yeah, I mean, let's see. Zapdos presumably targets Ray. Does this one-shot us with Sword of Ruin? Oh, it does. But you take so much recoil damage, and now Sucker Punch is a neutral attack. So the question is, does Sucker Punch KO Zapdos here? That's what it comes down to. It's Choice Scarf Zapdos. I have to go for this. Whew. Okay. That was pretty scary, because Gouging could have gone Burning Bulwark there. I didn't know what Tera they were going to be here with either. But yeah, that was like really, really close. And I think like the fundamental issue is that Okidogi just like did nothing for us basically. Also, by going for knockoff rather than Drain Punch, I did less damage to Gouging Fire. So if I had Drain Punched, since Chiyu did end up getting the knockout onto Kyurem, the extra damage from Drain Punch would have meant that I would have gotten the knockout onto the Gouging Fire with an extreme speed. But I honestly didn't know that calc either way. Like, whether I was like, I think maybe we can even knock out right now. But yeah, like, I went for the knockoff in case they like were going to switch out into Zapdos. But I think Drain Punch there is probably better for the Rayquaza calculation there in that end game. But yeah, I think if, you know, Gouging goes for any non-attacking move there, especially if it's Burning Bulwark, I lose. And like, fortunately, Zapdos, yeah, like by going for Steel Tera would have allowed them to resist extreme speed as well. So if I targeted Zapdos there, I also would have lost the game. And basically the reason I went for that play, the double up, was because I was like, I think Gouging Fire actually is like really, really scary. I also wasn't confident Brave Bird was going to one-shot Rayquaza. So I was like, if I even survive with 1 HP, that's enough for Rayquaza at the end of the day. But yeah, we barely pulled that one off. Terapagos, Ogerpon, Urshifu, Volcarona, Fluttermane, Indeedee. Interesting. Okidogi is really good for Terapagos matchup, so I think this is kind of a must-bring. Rock Ogerpon is really scary for us because Cudgel does so much into everything. So I think Weezing, Okidogi are both intriguing. Chiyu is bringable into this matchup because it can Snarl. Flutter I don't love. I think Chien-Pao Ray also makes sense. This gives me another fighting type attack into Terapagos. I think I want to go... do I lead the Weezing? What do they do if I just lead Chien-Pao Rayquaza? I could go Chien-Pao Rayquaza, Weezing Okidogi, honestly. What do I have to worry about with this lead? If you lead in... If it's Rocky, Helmet Indeedee becomes kind of annoying. And Helmet is so common on Indeedee. Knocking out Indeedee is actually pretty important because then it opens the door for Okidogi a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. Like, Flutter here just feels a little bit awkward to bring. I think it'd be interesting because if I went Flutter, I could go Flutter Ray, Icy Wind, Dragon Ascent. Which isn't bad, but I think the main concern would be them leading their Flutter main. So let's see what they go with. Terapagos, Volcarona. Okay. I think I'm okay with this. I mean, I pressure with Dragon Ascent immediately. I do pressure with Sucker Punch, Normal Tera, Extreme Speed immediately as well, but I don't think we want to get baited by an Indeedee switch in here. I think, like, truthfully, I'm thinking about just going Dragon Ascent here into Volk. Ice Spinner into Terapagos in case this switched out into Indeedee. Okay, Terapagos protects, that's fine. Could be Tailwind, could be Will-O-Wisp. Also curious how fast Volk is, but I assume it's faster than Rayquaza here. They set up Tailwind. Okay. That's okay. I mean, I know you're not Calm Mind Terapagos. Oh, sorry. I know you're not Choice Specs Terapagos, which is big. This is absolute overkill. Main fear would be Flame Body activating. But no Flame Body. Okay, so we start off with the knockout, which is great. They do get a free switch in now. And Tailwind is up. So switching into Flutter Mane. Okay. Booster energy, probably speed. Yeah. Okidogi is really good into this. I could also switch in Weexzing right now. The question is whether or not this Tera Starstorms or Calm Minds. I think a Calm Mind from this actually does make a lot of sense right now. But I think it's so risky to just like stay in and attack with Rayquaza. Like, there's a play we could make here where if we think this is Calm Minding and this is just Icy Wind Moonblasting, it would be to just like double up onto the Terapagos right now. So the question is, do we actually think there's a chance of it Calm Minding, right? I think what I want to do is switch out into Weexzing and then protect here. Because ideally, what we want to do in this game is save our biggest resources for Terapagos. Rayquaza obviously is not very good into the Flutter Mane either. So here, I think if you're my opponent, it makes sense to feel the pressure. I think it makes sense to Tera here and just attack as well. See if that's what they're going for. I think it would be. Yeah, because with this, you can just like Moonblast Tera Starstorm, right? But I know you're not Choice Specs, which I think gives us an edge. And also, by the way, in this position, I didn't switch in Okidogi, because even though Okidogi is really good with Assault Vest here, we don't want to switch it in and let it just lose half its health from a Moonblast plus Tera Starstorm combination. Okay, they go for Icy Wind. Yeah. Honestly, Rayquaza may have survived Icy Wind plus the Tera Starstorm. But this is fine. Okay, let's see how much we take here on Weexzing. 145 HP to start with. Down to 73. Cool. We still have Sash intact here, so you would probably want to Icy Wind Tera Starstorm again. Got Okidogi in the back. Assault Vest Okidogi should be excellent here. I'm leaning towards, like, Sludge Bombing, Sucker Punching here. The problem is I'm not even sure that KOs Flutter Mane, because this is probably going to be really bulky. So alternatively, I could launch my damage into Terapagos. It's just that Okidogi beats Terapagos pretty handily in the end game, I think. Okay, I'll double up on a Flutter here. Nice, we get Sucker. That's actually really good damage. More than I anticipated. And they Shadow Ball into us. Okay, if it's Shadow Ball, it means my Focus Sash is still intact, which I think is a really good trade for us. Because I think now... knock out Weexzing. I get a free switch in now. Neutralizing Gas wears off. Sword of Rune is online. I can go out in... I mean, if I go into Rayquaza, what I am pressured by Icy Wind, Moonblast. I could Sucker Punch Dragon Ascent. So, but Sword of Rune would be turned off. I think I actually go Okidogi here. And I think with Okidogi, I want to go for Drain Punch into Terapagos and then Protect with Chien-Pao. The obvious play for me to make here is Sucker Drain Punch, which I think they should play around. Yeah, they do play around it by going for Thunder Wave, okay? I don't mind being paralyzed as long as I don't get full parried here. Starstorm. But with this not being Specs, I really expected it to be Specs, honestly, from Team Preview. Like, I don't think we even lose half here. Yeah, that only does 61. Nice. Huge no paralysis there. Drain Punch does so much damage. Basically heals us back up. Okay, awesome. Leftovers. So Flutter Mane here should go for Thunder Wave once again, obviously, into Chien-Pao. And then this could protect or Calm Mind. Thunder Wave Protect makes sense. There's a part of me that wants to go Stellar Sucker Punch. Because I don't think Rayquaza needs to Tera in this endgame. Knock off into you. I just protected. Yeah, I'm down. Stellar Sucker. I just think this can like catch my opponent off guard and win me the game on the spot, because I think they might think, okay, I'm just going to go Thunder Wave into your Chien-Pao and then Tera Starstorm as well. And they're probably thinking, well, I can survive a regular Sucker Punch, right? But Stellar elevates this to the next level. Nice. Okay, that should win us the game, I think. Especially if they're Thunder Waving. Cool. That's why you run Stellar. But I'm, yeah, really surprised this ended up not being a Specs Terapagos, because, like, Specs Terapagos under Tailwind is so scary. They actually did Icy Wind here. Surprised they opted for that over Thunder Wave, but they were probably thinking, you're going to read into me trying to Sucker Punch you. I do get Parrot, which is a little bit less than ideal. I think it's probably still okay, but now we still have a game. It is Ogerpon as their last one as well. Okay. Can follow me. Got Ray in the back. I resist Ogerpon really nicely with Okidogi here, though, so I feel like Okidogi should be in a really good spot by itself. Leaning towards going for knockoff onto Flutter here and protect with Chien-Pao. Yep, they Thunder Wave into us. Cool. Nice. Cudgel into Chien-Pao as well. Perfect. No para. Excellent. Knock off KO's Flutter Mane. Okay, great. Now it's a 3v1. I outspeed the Ogerpon as well, so we should be good. So I can just go for Drain Punch into you and Ice Spinner into you. You can go for Spiky Shield here, I suppose, but yeah. So Rayquaza didn't even hit the field in that one, but Okidogi I think was a very, very important Pokemon, being able to like soak up damage, threaten so much damage, put the Terapagos in Sucker Punch KO range. No, sorry. I mean, Rayquaza was actually very impactful in the first turn of the game. It got that one knockout, and then it like never hit the field afterwards. But it was actually, it was like, it felt like it was such a long game. I literally forgot about turn one. So yeah, Ray was actually still really relevant, right? Because like, how many Pokemon in the format can reliably get a one-hit knockout onto Volcarona like that immediately, right? So we get the knockout, and then yeah, like Okidogi ends up being super, super good and like soaking up a lot of the remaining damage, because it's like into Flutter Mane, into Rock Ogerpon, and into Terapagos. Like we can just take damage pretty well. You can see if it was Choice Specs Terapagos, obviously elevates the damage output pretty significantly, and I think if they had Calm Minded on turn one as well, Terapagos would have been a lot scarier. But the reality is a Terapagos that has not gotten any boosts off or doesn't have a Choice Specs is just not very threatening. So yeah, but shoutouts to Ray for getting that first knockout. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much, as always, for joining me. It was really fun to be able to feature Choice Band Rayquaza and show that it can work in this format. And so I hope you all enjoyed. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.